Hello and welcome. I am Gary Raver, and this is going to be an in-depth analysis of the first Fallout 4 trailer. This video is supposed to go alongside the 7th of June G-log, linked in the description. So first things first, the trailer opens like most Fallout ones do, panning away from a TV. This song here, which I can't include in this video for copyright reasons, is by the Ink Spots, which is the same artist as was used in the Fallout 3 trailer, compared to the New Vegas one, which had Dean Martin. I don't know if this is suggesting that Fallout 4 is going to be more similar to 3 than New Vegas. It could just be a coincidence, but I thought I'd mention it. Here you can see that the clock has stopped at 9:47, and as it's light in the pre-war, this can be assumed to be 9:47 AM. This is consistent with other games which pinpoint the Great War to have begun at 9:47 AM. This isn't really indicative of anything, but here is a Blast Radius board game. I just find that name funny. However, of note, in the family photo also visible here, there doesn't seem to be a child. It seems that the only child in this family is the baby seen later on in the trailer. So why would this child-seeming board game be owned by this house? Also visible in the family photo is what appears to be either the Washington Monument or the Bunker Hill Monument. This could just be an Easter egg for Fallout 3, however. Here, of course, is the dog that appears in pretty much every Fallout game, and heavily indicates that there will be another one in this one, which is pretty much confirmed later on in the trailer. Here you can see that the dog bowl was present in the pre-war shot. Right, here we get the first thing where my opinions deviate from those of other fan theories I've seen. Some people think these people here are the parents of the protagonist, that you play as the baby there, because there are rumours that Vault 111 has cryogenic stasis, which would mean that somebody alive pre-war could also be alive post-war. But I really don't think that that's the case. Well, while cryogenics may be part of it, I don't think that these are your parents and that you'll be playing as the baby. Mostly because you can see both of them, and they both seem to be white, so that would really kneecap character customization if they are your parents, because in 3, you had Liam Neeson as your dad, but you never saw your mother, so she could be any race, and therefore you could be any race. But if both of your parents are clearly seen as white, that sort of kneecaps what race you can be. There's also more evidence as why these aren't your parents later on, and I'll come to that. Here, this is just an area that I look forward to exploring in the main game, and I'd be very surprised if this wasn't in the main game. This is another thing that's not really relevant, but what is this man doing? Everybody else is running that way, which is presumably towards the vault, but that man is just there, and the woman is standing next to him. The shot is too fast to really see what they're doing, but it's just odd, is all. Here we have the entrance to the vault area, and there are 2 people in power armor flanking what appears to be a man in military uniform. And I believe that power armor was deployed pre-war to combat riots and stuff, but I find it a bit hard to believe that they'd be deployed to every single vault. So I think it's less likely that they were standard issue, and more perhaps that there is somebody of importance in this particular vault. Perhaps that's why there's cryogenic stasis. There's not much evidence for that beyond what I've said, but it's just a bit of a headcanon. War never changes. So here, of course, as I mentioned before, this is pretty much confirming that Vault 111 will be the home vault of 4, just as 101 was for 3, and there wasn't really one for New Vegas. And this is another interesting thing. There seem to be 2 seals on this vault. One, which is the classic one, the vertical door that slides along, but then there's also this horizontal one that creates a sort of roof. That explains why the inner door is in such good condition compared to other ones we've previously seen, because it's inside its own sealed area. Why is there this second door? Is this a different kind of vault? Or is there extra security because this vault had a space reserved for the important person? And here we get some establishing shots for the location, which has pretty much confirmed to be Boston, Massachusetts. So this is the Bunker Hill Monument. This is the USS Constitution, as indicated by the particular painting on the back. A notable difference is that this has rocket boosters strapped to it. It's not clear whether this was done pre- or post-war, and whether the ship is functional or not. It's possible that we're looking at another Rivet City style thing where the interior has been hollowed out and people are living in it. Another Boston location, this is Scollay Square, and here it has a couple of things of importance. First of all, this guy walking in the centre. I heard a fan theory that this is the mysterious stranger seen in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, but I don't believe that. I think this is an indication of the theme that Fallout 4 will follow. New Vegas had quite a cowboy theme. Of course, it was in the desert, so they had the cowboy hats and the desperados, revolvers and the like. I reckon this is going to be going for more of a sort of 1920s gangster theme with the trilbies, fedoras and trench coats. Also, very interesting to note is that there appears to be weather. There is rain and lightning present in this shot. Whether that's a set piece or whether weather will be a dynamic thing in the Fallout world, which I seriously hope, is yet to be seen. Here's another wide shot which appears to show super mutants, and you can't really see them very clearly because of the lighting, but it's pretty clear that they're super mutants because in the background you can see one of these cages, which of course were all over the place in Fallout 3. There weren't many super mutants in New Vegas apart from at Charleston Lodge, so I hope that they do come back and have more of a role than they did in New Vegas. Now this shot, there isn't really much going on, but I wanted to note how colourful it looks compared to 3 and New Vegas, which were green and orange based respectively. Of course, the 3 HUD was of a green colour and the New Vegas one was orangey brown amber. So I reckon that this one is going to have a blue default HUD due to a few blues being seen in this trailer, like here. Either way, it does look like this is going to be a much more colourful one than the greens, browns and greys of previous versions. Now we get a shot of a Deathclaw, and this looks very different to previous ones we've seen. It is much bulkier. And it's a question of whether this is a redesign or whether this is an alpha Deathclaw as met in previous ones, which tended to have the spikes and the horns. And I reckon it's more of an alpha one which has been chosen to go in the trailer because it's more dramatic looking. This shows a vertibird with what looks like Brotherhood of Steel inside, and I'm hoping that this shot indicates that they're going to be more than just set pieces in cutscenes and barely interactable as they've been in previous ones. I reckon they'll be much more important to the game itself, but more evidence for that appears later. Here, of course, is the well-circulated shot of what appears to be ghouls running at you. And this would be another ghoul redesign. However, interesting to note is that they are wearing armor, which feral ghouls tend not to. But also important to note is the new animations, so they're not just running with their hands out in front of them, and the upgraded physics engine, knocking things out of the way as they run. Here is what is most likely a frontal shot of Diamond City, which is a city inside a baseball field. And the evidence for the baseball field thing are the floodlights in the background of the city shot, as well as the baseball motif, like the baseball man out front and the baseball bats everywhere. Here is another Boston landmark. This is the Paul Revere statue, but more importantly in the background is what appears to be an airship. And I'm of two minds about this, because the problem with airships is that they're generally a steampunk idea, and if Fallout goes a bit too steampunky, then it'll detract from the futuristic tone it generally has. Not to mention that steampunk isn't exactly post-apocalyptic. So I'm a bit dubious about where they're going with the airships. I'm hoping that they're not going to be a common feature, and that if vertical transport is a thing, which I sort of reckon it will be, that it's pretty much limited to vertibirds. More evidence of the vertibird thing is in the next shot, which appears to be taken from inside a flying vertibird, standing next to a Brotherhood of Steel, or at least some guy in power armor there. So I actually reckon that vertical transport will be a thing in this, and it'll add a much needed third dimension to Fallout 3, which is pretty much a flat plane with inaccessible tall buildings. I mean, granted, there are a few that you could go in, but if they give Fallout 4 a proper third dimension, it could really add to the world. Also noticeable in this shot is a GNN notice board, and this is Galaxy News Network, which of course was the radio station with Three Dog in Fallout 3. And one of the first dropped hints about Fallout 4 existing was the guy who voiced Three Dog tweeting about how everybody liked Three Dog, which got people thinking that he was going to be the next one, and this, I think, pretty much confirms it, unless it is just an Easter egg. Here's another Boston landmark. This is the Massachusetts State Building. And a couple of things noticeable about this shot is how well preserved everything seems to be. The dome is intact compared to the Capitol Building dome from Fallout 3, and the buildings in the city all seem to be in relatively good condition, again compared to the buildings in Washington in Fallout 3, and even a lot of the buildings in New Vegas, which were pretty much husks of proper buildings. So maybe this is going to have much more of a thriving city where people are living in these general buildings. But more importantly is this giant building in the background, because of course Boston, Massachusetts is now known as the Commonwealth in the Fallout world, and in the Commonwealth is the Institute. We don't know a lot about the Institute. It only came up pretty much in one quest in Fallout 3 where you dealt with an android, but I reckon it's going to be central to the plot of Fallout 4, where there'll be androids and something to do with the Institute, either helping it or fighting against it. Perhaps that's going to be part of the faction system. But I reckon that this building is the Institute, because the Institute is what is now Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, which geographically is just across some water from the state building. So if this is a long shot from above, that could actually be the correct distance. So I reckon that that is in fact the Institute. And back to the vault. Here, the thing that struck me was that there's no visible way out of the open vault. So I reckon there's some sort of lift. So the door opens and then there's a lift in the center. Or perhaps the lift is the vault door. And this is perhaps supported in the next shot. Here you can see there's this sort of circle with the locked sides. So I reckon that the top vault goes down to open. And here is the biggest evidence for why the parents and babies in the beginning aren't you and your family. They are very clearly trapped outside of the vault when the bomb goes off. You can see the baby in the mother's arms there. If they're trapped outside, the vault is not going to open straight after the bomb goes off. So there's no way these people will be cryogenically frozen, and they're most likely dead off after that blast anyway. So I think that is fairly conclusive proof that these are not you and your parents. So here we have the most amazing shots from this trailer. You have the dog going past what appears to be a redesign of the Nuka-Cola machine into this sort of garage. And first thing that I saw was that there seems to be some sort of gun turret under a cover, so perhaps you can have gun turrets or some kind of walking machine gun as a follower. And then you have the power armor. The power armor has been quite central to a lot of people, and it seems to be disassembled. So to me, this hints towards armor customization. Some people are saying perhaps we can build our own power armor. I don't think we'd have the technical knowledge to build it, but maybe customizing it is a possibility. Also on the left, you see a gun on a rack. I reckon that they're going to expand the modding system from New Vegas, so instead of just putting on little clippable mods, I reckon there'll be a full weapon customization system as well, so it'll add perhaps more of a scavenging aspect to the game. These two things, along with the ammo boxes there at the bottom, the bobblehead, which could either be an Easter egg or bobbleheads coming back, which I sort of hope they do because they were just cool. This is most likely a player base. And here again, it struck me how colourful this trailer is, especially compared to previous versions and, in general, current-gen stuff. Here we have a rather close-up shot of the new Pip-Boy. It is noticeably different from the Pip-Boy 3000 from New Vegas and 3.
Let's go, pal.
And then, probably the most debated thing from this trailer is the voice. Personally, I seriously hope that it is voiced, because that's something that's been lacking from the previous games. It'll be a big step for the series, but I do hope it is voiced. You choose the option, and your voice says it. In this shot we have more evidence for the customized armor and weapons, as he seems to be wearing either armored vault suit or just a customized one, and the gun he's holding seems to be a heavily modded hunting rifle or similar weapon. And that seems to be pretty much everything there is to the trailer. And some people have been mentioning that the graphics don't seem that good, but to be honest, Fallout graphics have never been a selling point. To be honest, Bethesda graphics in general, like Skyrim, the graphics weren't amazing. But it's not the graphics you go for, it's the world and the building that you go for. And if the graphics look like that, I will be blown away and I will still get some amazing screenshots. I'll be following this news very carefully, and I'll be doing more videos on this sort of thing and analysing any future trailers, as well as any announcements, and altering my predictions for the game itself. Again, I suggest you check out my G-log from the 7th of June, if you haven't already. That's talking more about what I personally hope will come out of Fallout 4, based on my experiences with 3, New Vegas, and possibilities of next-gen innovations. And I will update you guys as I go. So thank you very much for listening to this. It was a bit of a long video, which is why it wasn't a G-log. This is sort of a G-log extra. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you later.